Next on Pink Elephant Foxtrot, Culture Crunch. In this installment, we take a look at the prophetic genius of the band Devo in a segment called Answer, We Are Devo. It is hard to see the beauty in tragedy. It takes courage, perseverance, and time. But trauma can act like a wormhole. It can transport us to a path we may never have taken otherwise. On May 4th, 1974, founding members of the band Devo, Jerry Casale and Mark Mothersbaugh, were students at Kent State University in Ohio when they witnessed the killing of 3 fellow students by the Ohio National Guard. Casale was close friends with 2 of the victims, Jeffrey Miller and Allison Krauss, and this event was a turning point. In an interview published on the Kent State University's School of Art website, Casale described the profound effect this incident had on him. I had always been making art and music, but the events of May 4th and beyond galvanized my creativity, infusing it with an existential anger and urgency that would otherwise not have happened. In short, Devo and the idea of de-evolution as a manifesto would not exist without that defining, historic trauma I experienced. Casale and Mothersbaugh could easily have steered their grief and anger and their realization that the human race was de-evolving into something contemporary and literal. Protest music can inspire and galvanize, but that's not the path they chose. Instead, they created a futuristic portrait of a world in which technology has mutated and de-evolved human beings into something just short of a one-celled organism.
Evolving up from little cells. I say it's all just wind and sails. Are we not meant?
We are Devo.
Are we not meant?
Devo.
The band infused this concept of de-evolution into their stage show and lyrics. Their music and appearance a gene-spliced amalgamation of punk, rock and roll, and German electronica. Dressed in matching one-piece yellow hazmat jumpsuits, their logo emblazoned across each shoulder, the unwavering mechanical drive of original drummer Alan Myers set the tone for their stiff, industrial choreography. Devo's music was highly evocative, but it was their brilliant cover of the Rolling Stones' hit Satisfaction that made the concept of de-evolution accessible, and their startling performance on Saturday Night Live brought their manifesto right into our living rooms. If you look at the history of rock and roll, there are very few instances of a songwriter or a band coming out of the gate fully formed. Most artists take several albums to develop a mature style, and it would be disastrous to predict a band's future based solely on their first effort. The Beatles' first album, Please Please Me, had several original 3-minute toe tappers, but no one could have predicted the future direction of the band from that album. Bob Dylan, his 1962 self-named debut consisted predominantly of traditional folk tunes. The Rolling Stones, their first album in 1964 was blues-based and had only one original composition. But when Devo went to the countryside outside of Cologne, Germany with producer Brian Eno to record at engineer Connie Plank's studio in 1977, they had become a well-oiled machine, driven by a remarkable concept and stage show that had been developed and perfected for over 3 years. Coming out of the gate fully formed is not easy to do, but Devo's first album, Question, Are We Not Men? Answer, We Are Devo, is one of the most impressive and fully realized first albums in the history of rock and roll. It is in the same pantheon of first efforts that includes artists such as Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Jimi Hendrix, The Doors, King Crimson, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Santana, Nick Drake, Roxy Music, the New York Dolls, the Sex Pistols, Patti Smith, and Laurie Anderson. But what sets Devo apart from the brilliant debut albums of these other artists is the almost operatic concept and backstory behind Are We Not Men, that, like real opera, acts like an IV to the subconscious. Were Devo soothsayers? Well, thanks to AI, there's a way to find out. Just ask your music chatbot to create a debut album of a band based on the concept of de-evolution. If the first track is called Uncontrollable Urge and there's a cover of the Rolling Stones' Satisfaction, check behind your ears for gills. Thanks for tuning in to episode 11 of Pink Elephant Foxtrot. Please help the show out by hitting that subscribe button. Opening theme by Tom Young. Additional music by Brian Berman. If you would like to become a sponsor of the show, get in touch. Stretto@pinkelephantfoxtrot.com. Coming up on episode 12 of Pink Elephant Foxtrot, Clear on the Concept. In the Cyber-Cretaceous period, when music existed in a physical form and streaming was just a glimmer in a carpetbagger's eye, there was this concept called the concept album. On episode 12, we take an in-depth look at a very special concept album you probably haven't heard before, a history lesson so brilliant it transcends the medium for which it was created, on the next Pink Elephant Foxtrot.